So my name is Karen Howe. I'm an AI reporter at MIT Technology Review, and I've been there for 6 months. Before that, I was a data scientist at Quartz, where I worked on their news chatbot for Facebook Messenger. And I would like to now introduce the panelists.
I'm Bree Glaeser, and I'm a director of innovation at the Mars Agency, which is a marketing agency focused on marketing to shoppers across the omni-channel environment, which increasingly includes conversational moments.
Hey guys, my name is Mihai. I'm a software engineer and product manager at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development, and I work in voice.
I'm Spencer Uttley. I'm a principal product manager at Intuit QuickBooks, which is small business financial management SaaS. I lead our QuickBooks mobile apps and QuickBooks Assistant.
Hey everybody, I'm Brian Waite. I'm a product manager on the emerging platforms team for Discovery Lifestyle Studios.
Awesome. So today for this panel, we're going to talk a little bit about how your brand might be able to leverage conversational agents, what appropriate use cases you might want to use them for, what kind of strategy you might want to take for adopting them if you're a small team in a larger organization, and then we'll look ahead to some of the other exciting ways that it might be used in the future. So really quickly, I want each of you to take around a minute to talk a little bit about what the conversational agent your company is building, and how you went about approaching building it when you first came up with the idea.
Sure. I mean, probably first of all, you're probably all asking, what is Mercedes-Benz doing here, right? We're a car company, not a voice company. But actually, we've been doing voice since the last 23 years. We were the first car to have a voice control system. It was an S-Class in 1996. Since then, a lot of things have progressed. And actually, last year, we introduced our voice assistant with our new MBUX system, which stands for Mercedes-Benz User Experience. And it's our completely revamped infotainment platform. You can invoke it using Hey Mercedes, and you can have a conversation with it. Not only that, we're also present on Alexa and Google Assistant in your home, so you can chat with your car and tell it to do things for you.
Cool. So we launched QuickBooks Assistant in the summer of 2017. It's integrated within our QuickBooks iOS, Android, and web apps. And it enables our small businesses and self-employed really to get the most out of QuickBooks, to understand how to use it, to decipher the accounting taxonomy, as well as to best understand their business, their finances, to help them make the best decisions to prosper. So we enable text and voice input, but we respond with both rich GUI and text as well.
So we experiment across most of the lifestyle brands under Discovery, but our main product is Food Network. We've been on Alexa for 2 years, Google for 2 years, and Messenger for 2 years as well. I would say in the beginning, we sort of just threw our site up on the voice skill, which is something that a lot of people, I would say it's a mistake that a lot of people make, and we kind of learned the hard way. And over the past 2 years, we've been experimenting with what are the use cases, what are the ways in which users want to interact with a brand like Food Network on voice. So more recently, we've actually been building experiences that help inspire you to try something new to cook. So we have features like Flavor Wheel, a fun game called Date Your Dessert, and we're even putting out a Food Network trivia skill in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So I work generally with consumer good companies and retailers to help them kind of figure out voice strategies and what voice marketing might look like in the future, how they can get a head start there. But our agency also has a proprietary voice product, which puts voice technology in the retail environment to help shoppers select at the shelf. So right now we have, that's called Smart Aisle, and right now we have it live at Bevmo stores. So there are actually 3 stores in the Bay Area that you can go check it out at through the end of April, and 2 in San Diego, and that's helping people select a whiskey right now.
Awesome. Brian, I'm going to start with you. So as part of Discovery Channel, which is a large TV network, how did you approach deciding that you actually wanted to build a chatbot or voice skill?
Sure. So I'll start with voice because we spend a lot of time there. And as I mentioned, I think 2 years ago, the emerging platforms team was very scrappy. There was just one product person, 2 engineers, and a designer. And basically, everybody in the org was really excited about voice, so we just threw the website on. And it was not an immediate success. So over the past 2 years, we've had a really rigorous product discovery process. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, we leverage a lot of design thinking principles. And a core component of that is empathizing with users and observing users and understanding what it is that we can help them with. So over a series of several in-home ethnographies and user interviews, both remote and in person, we've uncovered pain points. And food is a great use case because everybody needs to eat every day. So about a year after we just had our entire website on the app, we stumbled onto this insight that people wanted to be able to say, "Hey, Food Network, just tell me what to eat." So we came up with a bunch of different prototypes. And one of the things that we were able to do is do some rapid prototyping. Around a year and a half ago, there was a tool, SaySpring, that was out on the market, so it made it really, really easy to build prototypes. But when we talk about voice prototyping, it doesn't have to be something necessarily on the device. A lot of people have talked about reading from scripts today. That is an awesome technique. So anyway, we put a lot of things in front of users, and we found that they wanted to get out of their food rut. So out of 4 different prototype scripts, we actually found that Flavor Wheel, a super simple product that literally turns Alexa into a kooky wheel, and she deals you out a random new ingredient to try with a little bit of editorial content that empowers you to try something new on a weeknight dinner, for a weeknight dinner. So that's something we put in front of users. It was awesome watching the testing, going from the other sort of more rote types of functionality to this quick tell me what to eat experience, and we rated it based on would you recommend this, would you use this, and now it's very central in our skill today.
And did you know immediately that you wanted to build a skill around food, or did you try other different types of skills and realize that food was the most appropriate use case?
Yeah, so we definitely, Lifestyle Studios has Food Network, HGTV, TLC. Food Network was definitely the best use case that we could think of, so we definitely started there. We've tried some other experiments for home as well, and we're looking to branch out over the coming year.
Cool. Spencer, so you are also part of a pretty big company. So how did Intuit approach actually creating a chatbot or voice skill experience?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Intuit is actually a pretty old tech company. We originally launched on DOS 36 years ago, and so we've seen quite a few platform shifts, and we survived kind of the progression from DOS to Windows, Windows to web, web to the cloud. And as a part of that, we kind of felt like we were identifying another platform shift that I think a lot of people here would agree with. And so we spun up a discovery team, which was really kind of a skunkworks team with the goal of disrupting QuickBooks with conversational UI. And that's really where QuickBooks Assistant was born. And today, it's very much an integrated aspect of our existing QuickBooks experience, but we certainly see that in the future it could be the QuickBooks experience. And so as a part of that discovery team, we had kind of 6 months where we didn't really have any deliverables, which was amazing. Had a lot of free, capability and autonomy to just learn the space, learn how it would impact our users, how we could leverage natural language to provide speed to benefit for people trying to manage their small business accounting. And then once we felt like we were, learning from these scrappy experiments that we were doing, which were really just faking it, a lot of what you talked about. Our first week as a team, we built a fake Facebook Messenger bot, which was just us typing in the background. But we learned so fast without any, startup costs, without writing a single line of code. And then our experiments gradually gained in their, how robust they were, and eventually we were gaining confidence that, hey, this is something that we can bring to market and ship within our QuickBooks products to really deliver significant benefit.
Was there a clear turning point in which you actually realized that you should formalize this as a product?
Actually, yeah, there was we were running experiments and we were doing a bunch of customer sessions, and there was one video that we ended up showing to our current CEO of a customer saying I can't help but break my NDA, I have to tell people about this. This is a game changer for me and all my small business clients. And that was such an effusive review of just this shitty experience that we had built that we got a lot of confidence there, and that was really the turning point that I point to all the time.
That's awesome. Mihai, so Mercedes isn't a tech company, but you're part of the innovation team there. So how did you approach convincing a car company that they're supposed to be innovating on this particular space?
I mean, we're not a tech company like Silicon Valley tech company, but we do make cars, and there's a lot of tech in cars, and we are kind of moving towards a software-driven company. I mean, as I said before, we have voice in our cars for a long time now, and it was just a natural progression for us when we saw kind of this big wave of like voice assistants with Alexa, Google Assistant. Like we said, okay, we have to jump on this and really make the best out of our in-car experiences. But we truly believe like we need to make our own, just because we need to have the control to model the experience the way we think it's best and the way we think our customers will want to interact with our cars.
And do you work on your tech stack completely independently, or do you have partners?
No, we try to partner with the best in the market. So we kind of focus on the experience. We focus on kind of putting things together, but we try to use our partners for the best technology that's out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bree, for you, as someone part of Mars Agency, you're working with clients to try and adopt this chatbot. So what are the challenges that you have faced in trying to get that adoption and strike up those partnerships?
Yes, lots of challenges. On actually, one side of our business has kind of not a lot of friction, and that's the Smart Aisle opportunity, because we were very quickly able to prove a sales lift when we put that in store. But on the other side of the business, where we're talking to consumer goods brands about how they can sell and facilitate voice shopping, they are much more hesitant because they are looking for that same story. So they're looking for an ROI immediately, and their budgets and the way that they work require that. Like they can't put a bunch of money behind promoting the skill if they don't know that it's going to make money, but it won't make money unless they promote it. So it's a lot of chicken or the egg kind of conversations. And I think that my best advice to anybody in an organization like that is to really pursue like radical collaboration and getting a lot of stakeholders involved, and not trying to do it in a silo, not trying to do like a secret test and learn, which literally has been proposed to me, because that's not going to be effective, and you need to be able to kind of leverage everyone and make sure also that what you're choosing to build is tapped into the strategy of the organization so that it will have legs and live.
When you face these challenges where people don't really feel like they want to be the first mover on adopting, what are some of the arguments that you try to give to encourage them to experiment more?
Yeah, I mean, one of the analogies that we often talk about is e-commerce. So particularly for consumer packaged goods, a lot of them were very hesitant to put their products on Amazon and start selling through that channel because it was not quantitatively a large enough slice of the pie. But then as a result, those brands are kind of losing. So like big offline player winners like Coke are losing to small, like direct-to-consumer upstarts like Buy on Amazon. So like Buy is like the #1 selling beverage on Amazon, not Coke. So we try to use that analogy and show people that the same thing is happening again now, and consumers are shifting their behavior. And you should be there now and testing, frankly, while the audience is a little bit smaller and the risk is not as high.
Mihai, have you faced any challenges with adoption internally, with getting buy-in from the rest of the company?
Well, I mean, with every new thing, like there's gonna be some pushback, but I think the experience talks for itself. So when you do get into a car and you start talking to our assistant, and like you tell it to do things or ask about things outside, it just convinces you that this is the next step, and voice is becoming the new graphical user interface, and we have to be there and we have to do our best in that space.
Have there been things that have surprised you along the way when interacting with users who use your product that have changed your strategy for how to actually approach it?
I mean, voice is a very interesting space in terms, because like when we interact with each other, we have so many other things that we look at. We look at how we smile or we're sad, so we do have that connection with each other. When you build a system, right, that has to interact with someone, like you kind of expect some questions, but I guess the secret is like, how do you handle the stuff that you cannot do? How do you still kind of keep the user interested and like connected to your system for the things that actually he's going to ask you something, you cannot respond to it because you don't know, but like you still want your customer to interact with the system. So I guess the secret is how do you handle that, because that will kind of retain your customer in coming back and trying it again or using it for other stuff.
Spencer, so apparently your users fell in love with your product right away. Were there ever any roadblocks that you faced where you had to overcome some obstacles with customer buy-in?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as mentioned quite a few times today, when you launch a conversational experience, the launches tends to be kind of the beginning of the journey. And so for us, like, it's been just a constant iteration for the past 2 years, trying to learn from our customers and learn how they talk about accounting, which is something that we felt like we had a good grasp on before starting this out. We do all sorts of, customer research, traditional customer research, et cetera, to hear how our customers talk about, their finances, accounting in general. But we learned so many new ways to say things within QuickBooks Assistant that were really great pieces of discovery for us, and now we feed them back to the product teams. Because for one, we face this interesting dichotomy of accountants and bookkeepers who want everything to be GAAP compliant and all in the accounting terms, and then the novice do-it-yourself business owner who doesn't want to know what a credit memo is. They just want to give this customer half their money back. And so before, we had to face these decisions of what do we name that button or menu item to solve for both of these customers. And it caused a lot of issues. But today, the novice can come to QuickBooks Assistant and say, let me give half my money back, and the assistant can kind of do the translation to accounting speak to make that process done correctly in the back end. And so that's been really powerful for us to understand and not only leverage within the assistant, but also, again, to feed back to product teams to help us create better product in general.
Can you give a specific example of a feature that you added or changed based on this quick feedback loop with users?
Yeah, so the two, one is the credit memo piece. So we, again, kind of translated our QuickBooks desktop offering from Windows to online, and in that process kept a lot of the accounting jargon that was built within that product. And so a lot of our users were trying to create discounts on invoices, give refunds, et cetera, things that feel like they make sense. However, if you want to do that in accounting, the actual term is credit memo. And so we learned of this big gap in misunderstanding of our customers, and we were able to pipe that back to our product. And then the other is on the insight side of things, because QuickBooks Assistant also helps you just understand really quickly the money that is behind all your finances and help you understand your business, is people would ask about, how much am I going to make as opposed to how much did I make in the last few months? And so we just recently released the ability to do cash flow forecasting with QuickBooks Assistant, so you can say how much am I going to make for the next 3 months, and the assistant will do some fancy ML, as Scott calls it, and give you a projection for the future.
That's awesome. Brian, what kinds of challenges, surprises, or roadblocks have you encountered with the fact that your users never explicitly asked for a voice skill to give them recipes?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it brings to mind this challenge of user expectations, which I think that we all struggle with across voice and bots. When we set user expectations high, inevitably we're going to not delight them. And that's certainly been tricky with Food Network because the brand means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So to somebody it might mean finding the recipe that they just saw on TV. It might mean doing a very sort of specific search with a lot of keywords, like a chicken piccata with lemon. Or it might mean, hey, I want to be on Food Network. We get that a lot. Or I want to talk to Bobby Flay. Is Giada there? Make Giada say something Italian. So there's so many different crazy use cases. And when you talk to users and you understand what a brand like Food Network means to them, you could delight each one in a completely different way. So I think that, over the course of the 2 years that we've had the voice skill live, the nice thing about having it at the brand level, it allows us to experiment a little bit, so we can slot in features like a dating game where you date your dessert, or the flavor wheel, or something else. But the downside of that is that you can't satisfy everybody with one skill unless you have a really defined use case. So the way we're thinking about taking that on is actually doing more standalone skills. So for example, we might consider doing a skill that's literally called, like, what should I eat tonight? Don't anybody here make that, or if you do, give us credit. Similarly, for the people who want to interact with on the more sort of aspirational lifestyle point of view, hey, I want to be more like Giada. I want to know what Giada is cooking this weekend. We could super serve them with a specific skill.
Yeah. What is the biggest value that you think you've gained from providing a voice skill to your viewers?
Well, I can say from the internal point of view, it's just been learning how to build for these platforms. We have a small team that's in-house, and it's been really helpful for us to understand what it means to create content that's for these platforms, and then be able to explain internally how we might need to build new content that's going to work on these platforms in the future. From a user point of view, as far as value, I'd say our most successful product has been the Facebook Messenger chatbot, and we've seen a lot of people. I can't put the number out, but a lot of people have subscribed to our daily bite. So I think that our users are finding us on these platforms, and they're saying that they want to interact with us in new ways, and certainly delivering like a tidbit of information and a meal suggestion every day is something that users have responded really well to.
Yeah. Bree, what about you for Smart Aisle and the other products that you're trying to build? What do you think is the biggest value add?
For Smart Aisle, I think that there's a lot of value, and we're actually still trying to figure out what is the most compelling value for the market. The first thing that we really zeroed in on was a sales lift, sales impact directly. But then we've sort of realized that we're also getting a lot of really interesting insight about how people shop, because we're having a conversation with them and we're collecting that data. So, for example, we know how much people are walking into the store and wanting to pay, because that's one of our questions. We know, which product features they're most interested in based on kind of which path they go down. So all of that's really interesting, I think, both to retailers and brands that are on the shelf. So I think that that's a really compelling value that we're just kind of discovering and figuring out how to harness.
Have you been able to figure out whether the lift is because of the novelty or because it is just a more seamless experience?
Not exactly. It's hard to parse those things apart right now,
Right.
Particularly with short kind of pilot periods. Although our first pilot was in New York City, that is actually still there. So they went evergreen with it, and it's continuing to run. So that's an opportunity for us to continue to watch sort of how it changes. But I think in general we haven't reached the inflection point, like as a society, where we're used to talking out loud in a retail environment to a robot. But I think that that's going to change very quickly, because there's been a lot of research around how quickly people get used to it in their homes. And then, I think that will translate into the rest of the world very quickly. So I don't know that we are at the stage to know the peak value of it quite yet.
That's a really great segue into looking ahead. So I would love each of you to weigh in a little bit on how you see conversational AI actually playing into your organization's future strategy, as well as your industry's future strategy.
I can go ahead. So when we look out at the future of accounting software space, we see automation, as you might guess, being a huge part of that future. So much of what our customers do in our products today is fairly mundane bookkeeping tasks of categorizing transactions, et cetera. And so we see a huge part of that being automated in the next 3 to 5 years. And in that space, that changes fundamentally what our customers use QuickBooks for. And what they are going to use QuickBooks for in that world, when they don't have to come in and do all the small tasks, is for one, they need to be confident that those tasks were automated successfully. We think Conversation UI is a great way to help deliver that confidence that all this work that we took off your plate was done right, because if you don't have that confidence, you have to go check it all anyways, and it wasn't really taken off your plate. And the other is just come and get any question answered as easily as possible when you want to know how much did we spend on this, how could I increase these margins, etc. And again, when you're talking about a really specific and pointed question, there's no better medium than Conversation UI and natural language to fulfill that. And so we could potentially see a future where QuickBooks Assistant or natural language is the only way that you interact with the QuickBooks product, because all the drudgery is automated away for you.
I can jump in next. So I think for the future, there are probably two areas where conversational interfaces are really going to be important for discovery: storytelling and expertise. So I'll start with expertise. You know, when we think about a brand like Food Network, a big value to the users is that we are perceived as knowing our stuff, as understanding what a high-quality recipe is, and empowering somebody to know that something's going to turn out well. So I think it's been said, earlier today in the context of making product recommendations and some other use cases, but understanding how to deliver brand expertise on these platforms is going to be so important. And there's a lot of experiments that we're all trying, but I think that we're really going to have to crack that in order to take full advantage of these platforms. And then the other one is sort of obvious, but storytelling. So at its core, Discovery does unscripted storytelling. And it's not going to be enough to just have a linear show anymore. People are going to expect to be able to interact with their storytellers in all of the ways that are possible, and that includes the seamless ability to just sort of ask for your favorite talent or person or show, and be able to do something with them, to hear from them. So I don't have the answers as to what these experiences are going to look like, but we're all trying every day to figure out what that's going to look like in 5-10 years.
I guess for automotive, voice will play a pretty big role in the future. Mm-hmm. And you will see more fulfillment, and not just like for the car controls domains, but also outside of that, especially when you're looking for a restaurant and trying to book a table, maybe order food and so on. You will definitely see more edge computing. So a car will take you from point A to point B, and along the way you will hit spots with no connectivity, but you shouldn't lose your experience. You should still be able to talk to your assistant, and they'll still be able to help you. And of course, when you're in cities or in areas with 5G and so on, you will have a large set of extra domains available to you. I think recognition will improve by quite a lot. We'll improve on detecting accents and multi-language support in one specific area. So you can go to Germany and talk in English, and you can come to the US and talk in German to the assistant, and it'll just pick you up. So yeah, there's many great things that we can look forward to.
I'm looking forward to, on the industry side, I'm looking forward to seeing shopping really take off, and I think that will happen, particularly with the introduction of screens and multimodal devices. I think it's only a matter of a short amount of time before that will be a much larger piece of or area for commerce. And then internally, I am looking forward to when voice kind of isn't just a novel tactic anymore, and is viewed more as like just something that people understand as a channel that they use to reach their consumer, and kind of comes off of the innovation teams and is more widely understood throughout the organization, and maybe owned by digital, but still like not just R&D and innovation, but it's really a lever that is just such a no-brainer. Like, we all have mobile apps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one last question really quickly, starting from Bree and going down. What is your one piece of advice to people in the audience today for how they can get started with a conversational agent?
You may have to go asynchronously because I need to think about that.
Okay, starting.
I guess I would say voice is the next GUI. Start on it right now.
I would just say start as scrappy as you possibly can. It's a medium that is incredibly well leveraged to like prototype very, very small experiences that can help you get learnings incredibly quickly. And so like I love the adage that if you're not embarrassed by your first rendition, you launch too late. And I think that applies very much to conversational UI.
Yeah, I would agree. Start right away. Identify the key use case that you want to solve for, and make a bunch of scripts. This is conversational, so you can literally test by talking out loud and playing the role of your assistant.
I would suggest if you're considering a consumer or really any end user, thinking of all of the different moments in their life that you might want to intersect and kind of mapping that out and figuring out what, again, is kind of the use case question, but I think that's an interesting way to approach it, is sort of think about the journey and the moment that you have access to now that you didn't really have access to through other channels.
Awesome. We have a little over 4 minutes for audience questions. So, yes, up there.
Oh, okay. So even based on all of the advice that you guys just gave, which was like, go do it, there's this like assumption of value there already. And so what I'm curious is like sort of back to where you were talking about some challenges that you had faced. How do you prove or even understand a bot's value? If it's valuable, if it's useful?
Do any of you want to talk about KPIs that you use to measure success?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the KPI has to be the goal of the thing that you're trying to move, whether or not that's shopping conversion. For us, a lot of times it's task completion within QuickBooks. Are they sending more invoices so they're getting paid more money, whatever that may be. I think early on, as you mentioned, it can be difficult to prove out the value without the scale, but I would just encourage to try and set up an experiment where you might be faking the intelligence, and you can do that with human intelligence behind the scenes, but still be testing against the funnel of something that you want to move, and hopefully you can get some data that will help point towards the value to move that metric.
I guess in automotive voice, the thing is, like with voice is hands-free, right? So when you're driving or when you're in your car, the main activity right now is for you to drive, at least for the driver, hopefully, and not be on your phone. And voice allows you to do that, right? You can still control and interact with your assistant and ask for a lot of things within the car and do all the comfort stuff that your car is not providing you. Change interior lights and also ask how tall is the Eiffel Tower. So yeah, for us, voice definitely is proving to be the next user interface.
I saw another question back there. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
here and then we'll go back there. Yeah.
Right. The question is specific to Brian. I want to know if you can explain a little how you can dig into all the content that Discovery have created for years and choose that specific recipe. I mean, you invite Chef Valerie to your studio and give recipes to you guys, or you have a team digging into the TV shows and, okay, this is a pie that she's recommending right now. How that translates from all the trove of information into an answer?
Yeah, that's a really good question and something we've spent a lot of time thinking about, because if you ask the Food Network skill for a great recipe and our response is, we have 2,000 great recipes for you to try, including title of recipe, it's not going to be a compelling experience, and we learned that pretty quickly. Luckily, at Discovery we have a lot of resources, so I work right next to the culinary team. I've got an editorial partner that I can work with. And we basically, our take on this is that we need to build new conversational recommendations for our experience. So, to give you an example, we built a feature called What's for Dinner, where you can start with whatever protein you're cooking that night, chicken, beef, we have vegetarian options as well. And then we rotate through, 20 of our best recipes chosen by our editorial and culinary staff. So that's sort of the beginning, but you could imagine that the dream is that we then use personalization to customize that. But getting back to your original question, it's all about having great content. And we have definitely found that having, in this case, the culinary editor at our disposal is essential to building a good cooking skill.
Thank you.
And we just have one last question there. Yeah.
So for each of the panelists, if you had to choose for the brand or brands that you're working with the most, which of these three do you think is the most important relative to our users, our customers, the humans that our bots are talking to? Is it delight, satisfaction, or effectiveness?
That's a good question.
Probably, I feel like this might be a trick question, but I'm going to choose satisfaction because I think that delight can just be novel and fleeting. Not that it shouldn't be there, but I think you need to satisfy a need. So that's something we specifically actually are measuring that at BevMo. We ask it at the end of the conversation. It's been a really useful KPI for us to track customer satisfaction. And if someone says no, we can go straight to that conversation and see what went wrong. So
I think for Mercedes, definitely effectiveness. You can do a lot of things very fast with voice. You can jump through menus and do actions just by saying the query for that. And also you can do things outside of the vehicle.
Yeah, I think within QuickBooks, we'd also say effectiveness. For us, speed to benefit is a core principle of what Conversation UI delivers. And so at the end of the day, it's about making sure that that customer is able to get that refund. And obviously, we want a delightful character and experience around that, but effectiveness and the speed that it provides is the most important to us.
It is so tempting to say delight because it's so much easier to do. And as a media company, I can always get away with saying, it's so delightful. But it has to be effective. And that's part of my role as a product person to say we have to address the core user need. So we build that into our experiences. And we always ask, did you find something you liked? And if the answer is no, we have to do a better job.
Great. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists.